Hi there, I'm Gugulethu Mfuphi. I'm the host of Biz on Kaya 959, which broadcasts every Monday to Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m. And if you know anything about the show by now, you would know that we emphasize the point about wealth creation by unpacking the realm and the world of business, finance, economics, and anything and everything to do with investments and how it is that money actually impacts our lives. Now, in recent months, many of us might be feeling the pinch in our pockets, right? It's getting a bit tight. Everything from fuel to food to cooking oil, even palm oil is becoming expensive. And this is all part of the global dynamic that we see of rising inflation. But let's zone into the petrol price for a moment. What we've witnessed since the beginning of the month of January is a significant increase in the petrol price impacting the pockets of South African consumers. Now, this at one point saw the petrol price going above 22 Rand a litre at some point before government had stepped in with certain interventions. And of course, we're well aware that the reasons behind the significant increase in the petrol price are largely driven by the geopolitical crisis that we see unfolding with Russia invading Ukraine, Russia being a significant supplier of oil to the Eastern European region and, of course, the rest of Europe. And now with several sanctions that have been slapped on that nation for invading Ukraine, we've actually resulted in a shortage of oil supply. Now, what we've witnessed is that that's been priced into the market. We find ourselves now in the middle of the month of May, where much of the expectation of the end of this particular invasion has dissipated. And what has happened as a result is that the oil price has seemingly stabilized. One thing, though, that influences our pockets as South Africans is also the dollar-rand exchange rate. And whilst we might have had a great time in the month of April, towards the end of March as well, where we did see the dollar-rand exchange rate actually strengthening to levels of around 14.50 to the US dollar. We have at one point towards the end of April and beginning of May seen the dollar-rand exchange rate go as high as 16 Rand to the US dollar. Now just think about that. 14 Rand 50, 16 Rand. That's a significant swing within a period of what, less than 8 weeks? And these are some of the influencing factors that actually impact how it is that we're able to secure the price of petrol in South Africa. If you think about it, in order to buy a barrel of Brent crude, you need to unpack what that barrel of Brent crude actually costs. That's the price that in itself has fluctuated despite it stabilizing now. Together with that, you also need to buy a barrel of Brent crude using dollars. And that's why the dollar-rand exchange rate becomes so important for an economy like South Africa. These two things influence the cost of bringing in the fuel or Brent crude oil into a market like South Africa. Coupled with that, it gets processed and refined. There are a few government taxes and levies that are imposed there. And of course, that then influences how much a litre of petrol will cost us as consumers. But as mentioned, it's not all that bad, because what we have seen is that through government interventions to actually reduce the fuel levy by 1 Rand 50 for all grades of fuel, petrol and diesel included, this has actually softened the blow of the increases that we've seen on our pockets, specifically when it comes to the petrol price. Well, we have seen a slightly less or lower increase in the price of petrol for the month of April. And in March, or rather May, is when we've actually witnessed that there's been a decrease in the price of petrol by about 12 cents a litre, despite the fact that diesel itself has actually increased by more than 90 cents a litre. So why am I telling you this? Why do we need to be cognizant of what all these dynamics speak to? Well, firstly, because it has a significant role in inflation. And inflation is the cost or the rate at which we calculate the increase in the prices of goods and services that we pay for. And given that fuel influences every nook and cranny of our lives, getting you to work and school, how it is that your groceries make their way to the various stores that we buy them from, the logistics environment when you and I are making purchases online, moving those goods and products from the port to the distribution center, from the distribution center to the warehouse, from the warehouse to your home, all of that speaks to the price of petrol and subsequently has a major significant influence on the price of goods and services. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, essentially for us to be more cognizant and to fully unpack and understand how it is that the price of fuel plays a significant impact in the role of inflation. Inflation, which is calculating the rate at which the cost of goods and services actually increase by. And one thing's for certain is that everything that we touch in our lives is essentially propelled and influenced by the price of fuel. Consider this. It's not just getting you to work in your own vehicle or making use of public transport. It's also you going to the stores to actually purchase groceries, goods, services that you're actually going to buy from the store. Someone had to buy those particular products, make sure that they're able to be shipped from the harbor down to a distribution center, to a warehouse, down to a factory, even to the stores that you're buying it from. And all of these factors are essentially influenced by the price of petrol. So what do we need to be cognizant of as consumers? Well, the good news is that at least we have some short-term reprieve from these sharp increases in the price of fuel, largely because we have government to thank by reducing the fuel levy by R1.50 for the next 3 months. The bad news is that 3 months is coming to an end, and at some point, government needs to consider additional interventions to put in place in order to see the fuel price reduce significantly, in order to make sure that we as South African consumers don't feel too much pressure on our pockets. What do we need to be cognizant of as South Africans? Well, we need to be a little bit more cognizant of where it is that we're spending our money, and of course, paying attention to some of the ongoing global themes that actually influence our local pockets. So even though something seems as though it's happening as far away as Russia, as far away as the United States, as distanced away as the likes of China, all of these things in some way or another speak and have an influence into our local economy. And if it influences our economy, it influences your pocket.